what I mainly wanted to talk about was, I guess, really like what we need to do in 2020. And, at the point where we're at right now as a business, I mean, you know, I incorporated in April of last year. So, we haven't even been like fully incorporated for a year yet. We've done, I think, fairly well in our first year for being, in like the sticks of Kentucky. So, um, but that being said, like, I'm ready for us to grow. And, while I'm capable of selling pretty well and, getting shit done, what I'm not all that great at, and I know it, is necessarily the management of everything, because um, I don't want to call myself an entrepreneur because everyone calls themselves an entrepreneur, but I always chase down like new ideas, and I'm always thinking about new things and wanting to try new stuff. And that's not always the best thing, for my team or, what we're trying to get done, with current operations. So I'm wanting to, find someone who can handle ops. But one of the problems with where we're at is there's not really anyone locally. I think that's going to be easy to find just because of we live in a very rural area. No one's going to want to move here, Um, and then beyond that too, it's like, okay, well, how do I need to evaluate them? What do I need to look for? I was kind of looking at the whole, like, find someone that can do 70% of what I can do and then train them the other 20%, that whole process. But then also, kind of like what one of the other people that talked to you about in here was, when it comes to, all right, now how do I ensure that I can, afford to finance this person's payroll, once I hire them. So, which I'm confident I can, as long as I free up my time to do sales. But, still it's like, well, do I want to give myself a security blanket by taking a loan, or, what direction, what do I want to go there? So
What does your team look like now?
So we got 4 people. There's myself. I've got one other equity partner with a sort of a minor equity. It's like 15%. She helps me with sales and social. I've got one guy that handles content, and he's kind of doing operations right now, but he doesn't have a large background in SEO. So I wanted someone who could talk to clients and handle SEO from that side of things. And then I've got one girl who was she was doing link building. We've started using Erin, over at Knobs more now, so she's more or less just managing that now too, just finding the links that we want through vendors. So,
and what makes you think that you need to hire it sounds like you basically want someone to focus on running the day-to-day while you can grow the business, quote unquote, right? How did you arrive at that decision?
Mainly because I keep chasing down too many rabbits. I think like I'm still, maybe it's just because we're still somewhat new, that I'm still trying to refine processes and try new stuff. And, we use the sheets. We've got everything integrated with Asana as well, mainly just because of that's what some of us were used to using. So, I integrated it with Zapier integrations and whatnot. But I would say that, like, I don't have the time right now to necessarily focus on sales, while I'm still also, because I'm the only person who's really capable of doing everything from a technical standpoint currently. I've been working with like finding other freelancers and bring them in and, testing them. But I'm also having to try to get better at, I guess, letting my, my OCD go a little bit, where I want everything to be perfect. So
what is it when you said that you kind of have shiny object syndrome? What is it that you're chasing down?
Whether a lot of times it's tools, to be honest, or
like building or buying?
A little bit of both, actually, because I spent a lot of my time actually in your sheets, modifying them and tweaking them, and making them do things that they didn't necessarily do before. Just trying to speed up our processes. But so that, and that's something I'm like, I know that I would be far better off just finding someone else who can write, JavaScript in the back of Google Scripts to me say, here's what I want to do.
Just as a side note, I didn't know if you know this, but we can do that for you. Like it's a very small fee on top of that. That would probably save you a lot of time. I mean, if it's something that you want to tackle yourself because you felt like you wanted to build something completely custom, then that's understandable. But I wouldn't suggest going out to hire someone to do that, because you have David as a resource, and Andres also, who's our lead support. He's also, David spent the last year training him personally. So just as a side note, with some weight, but I mean, so it's basically just kind of you're basically working on improving the process though. So it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily being like, oh, I want to start a coffee shop, right? I mean,
Yeah, no.
you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
that's
all SEO. And we've been stripping back because we were doing, my background was in computer science. So like I did a lot of web development, I did a lot of algorithm development in the past. And so, but I've been pulling myself away from web development more and more and really just, trying to focus more on SEO. People are trying to get us to do, PPC, and I'm just like, look, I just don't know enough about it to want to dive into it. So,
sure.
so I've been trying to pull myself in that arena, but yeah. So I mean, that's
And
actually making.
if you have an equity partner who does sales, why do you feel the need to do sales as well?
Because I'm a better closer. I mean, that's
So why does she have 15% of the business?
So I could go into it. There's
I mean, you don't have to. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just kind of raising maybe obvious questions, but I'm just this is my first time hearing this, and these are the
Right.
questions that come to mind. So, I mean, she's an equity partner. There's nothing you can do about that, right? I'm not saying to get rid of her, but I'm saying, like, what is it that she's doing in sales? Like, if you still have to come in and close, is she like doing inside sales? Like, what is she doing to get that, justify that 15%?
So she'll facilitate like essentially getting my foot in the door, which is honestly like takes a load off of me. And then she handles a little bit, when it comes to, I'd say more from the customer retention standpoint. Like not quite an account manager, but helping me, keep up on top of all that day to day. So.
And what is it that I mean, do you guys have like an operating agreement? Like, what are your roles and responsibilities filled out, like legally from that point of view?
Yeah, no. I mean, that's
No?
like when I founded the company, like that was like all stuff that I probably should have, had a better grip on beforehand. So.
No, understood. I mean, shit, you'd be surprised. I've been involved in companies that don't have operating agreements. I'm just saying this from experience. So, I mean, just a word of something there. Like the point is what I'm trying to get to is that I like, it's easy to look at what I'm doing because I know I talk about it a lot, having someone like a Caesar who's, incredibly helpful in running the agency, right? It's easy to look at that. But, I think that you aren't quite to the point where you can pull yourself out yet because your brain power is still too important for the process. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm saying also is that looking at the pieces that you have and figuring out a way that you can go back to the process of like putting together an operating agreement that says, hey, for 15% equity stake in this company, these are the expectations for what that being, and like give her all the sales and then let you be the operations piece in the meantime. That's just one thought,
Yeah.
But definitely going through and defining what those clear, like if that doesn't necessarily trigger something that you want to do, I still suggest you go through that process because what it will do is it'll force you to see the gaps together. Right. Being like, hey, look at, I admit my faults. I've made some mistakes with my time in terms of chasing rabbits, but like I've taken a step back. I have a clear vision now. This is what I'm going to be responsible for. X, Y, and Z. This is what I need you to be responsible, assuming that that's something she wants. And I'm not saying alienate her, right? She's a partner. You want to make her feel a partner. So you want to find out what she wants to do, but really getting those roles defined and letting her manage that, right? So if it is sales, then like she needs to manage sales. There's nothing wrong with you coming in and helping to close. But she should be in charge of that pipeline. She should be in charge of getting leads. She should be in charge of proposals, that type of stuff. And of course, if you're needed for your technical expertise to come and help out, that's a part of your job as the owner too. But, how many clients do you have right now?
We have 7. We're about to sign. We just signed an 8th. And I think I've got another call this afternoon with
Good.
one of my client's sons, who's actually, runs a law firm too. So
nice. Very nice. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're at the point still where you still have to be the operations until you get to, and again, like until you get to a point, and this is also why you want to have this conversation because it's not just your roles and responsibilities, but looking at the financials and saying, hey, we need to get to, I don't know, 30,000 a month in revenue at 50% margins, whatever that is. At that point, we'll have enough cash for us both to be paid and happy, but then we can go out and make that really good hire. For that person to come in and, and I would suggest too, instead of being like, hey, come run our operations, you bring someone as an SEO specialist and you train them and you groom them, That's what I did with Caesar. Like Caesar didn't come in knowing how to run operations. It took him 6 years.
right.
So it is a process, so, and I think that you're still young enough and early on where you can get somebody for cheap who has the right twinkle in their eye and bring them on. And I don't know exactly where it is that you are. But I don't think that you should overestimate your position in your locality. Like the people that you have now, are they? I'm assuming like you're at home now. I'm assuming, right? So I'm assuming that
I'm
you
at the
guys are.
Yeah,
Oh, you're at the office.
yeah, we're at the office. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, dope. So you got a nice office then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I mean, I mean, I'm sure that it might be a little more challenging, but shit, dude, I'm in here in Miami, and the town here is ass. Like it's ass, top to bottom. You know, it's a major city, but the town is terrible. And I've had to build a process for my companies where we need to get people on. Again, we're not hiring based on your ability to dissect a website. It's more, um, you know, it's more based on your capacity to learn and your willingness to learn.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, this Kobe Bryant thing is like really shaking me. And
Right.
you know, I was a huge Kobe fan, and yeah, it's just a tragic situation. But like something that you can really take from Kobe is the fact that like that dude was his mental state, his approach to
Yeah.
everything was spot on, right? And you want to try and look for that. That's really hard to teach. That's something that people have in them innate.
Yeah.
And if you can find that with someone like I did with Caesar, like I did with basically everyone who was still with me for these years, was that they wanted to learn, they wanted to show up every day, and they were willing to do different things. And those are the type of people that you want to get. And that's not, and like you can get those people anywhere. That's not a thing based on education, based on location. That's based
Right.
on who that person is. And that's also something you can work with people by building a culture at your company. You know, and I do think too. I mean, people would be willing to move. I'm just, you know, spitballing. I don't think that you should give up on getting local people just because of where you are. You
No,
know?
I mean, I'm not completely, written off to it, but it's I guess, I've lived in a lot of cities. I've lived all over the country and been all over the planet. And, this is a whole different world
I
here,
understand. I understand.
but
I understand. It's going to be more difficult. It's definitely make more difficult.
low overhead though. I mean,
Exactly. That's exactly. I was the other thing that I was going to say too is that, you know, being here in Miami, and I'm not bad mouthing Miami. It's a different type of city. You know, very young, still growing. Doesn't necessarily have like the academia that like a Boston does or what have you, where I'm from. But what they do have is there's a massive entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like people want to run their own businesses. They want to learn the framework of that. So when I bring people in, you know, I'm taking that into account and I'm selling them on that too. Is that, hey, like, you know, you're going to be doing this, but like really what you're going to be learning how to do is running grow business and marketing. So if that's something that you're interested in, like you give me 5 years and, you know, you'll be set. And then also, of course, is that too, is that the talent here is a lot cheaper, right? So I'm able to get 1.5 seats filled for what I'd be paying for one person in New York, DC, Boston, maybe even less, maybe 2 people for one, you know, which is a big difference, especially in SEO where so much of it is busy work, you know, is that you can get cheap labor to just come in. And again, like now that you have the blueprint, you can see, like if you can just get one person who's really good at keyword research and on page, that's huge, right? You handle the technical things if needed, get them to do keyword research and on page, and then just gradually work with them to transfer your knowledge from them. Every time you run an audit, you run them through, right? And you just keep building that knowledge with that person. You know, you put in 6 months with someone, if they're the right person, or 2 people, you know, who can sit next to you, then you're good. You know, and you'll be in a much better place.
I guess so. With what you have going on down there, I mean, are a bulk of your internal people, like when it comes to like whether it's account managers? I mean, I know you got Caesar running essentially everything for you now, right? And then, and I know you outsource a lot of your stuff, but internally, you know, you've also got to do your own marketing and stuff too, right? Which is like its own separate, like, department really sometimes, but which, I mean, you've got a nice little mix though too, because you've been able to sort of mesh Blueprint with your marketing, right? And it goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
so that's nice.
exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you do if, like, I personally just don't think that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been in charge of people before. I was, like, I led people in the military for a little bit, and things like that and whatnot. But I've always been more of a, I do better in sort of like those like little side roles where like either where someone says, "Hey, go solve this problem," or go think of solutions and then tell us what we need to do, but not necessarily managing the process afterwards. I mean, maybe I can get better at it, but I mean, I was thinking like, like E-Myth Revisited. It's like I'm a doer and I'm like a thinker, but I'm not necessarily the manager, right? Like, I guess, like I can maintain it. Like we're doing fine. I said our margins, we think we're between like 35 and 38%. They could be better. Like I could drop a handful of tools right now and they'd be like 45%. So,
Sure.
but you know, like, I don't know if that's like something that I can learn, or even if it's worth my time to learn to do that. If, you know, I'm planning on having someone else sort of fill in that role while I take, you know.
I think it is. I mean, I think like whether you want to be or not, you're a leader in the company. You own the company. You know, it's your job. And I think coming from the military, you have to know there's so many different types of leaders and leadership styles. You know, I was an athlete. I played football in college. I get it completely. There's people that are vocal. There's people that just go out and do the work and people follow, you know, leading by example. There's different ways. I think what you will figure out as you grow is your leadership style would be defined by the culture that you create in your company, right? Um, you know, I'm the type of person where my leadership style is that I'm the type of person that puts my head down, goes to work, and lets things speak for themselves, you know.
Yeah.
And then I support people, you know, with empathy and understanding what it is that they want. Why are they working for me, and how can I support them in their efforts to reach their own personal goals? It's really about them. To me, that's a great leader. It's not your style. Your style just comes out naturally. It's about them and how you get the best out of them, you know. So I think whether you like it or not, leadership is a muscle that you'll continue to develop, especially as you bring on more people, and people are going to look to you naturally because you're the boss,
Right,
you know. So
yeah.
whether you like it or not already, you are a leader, you know, and you are an entrepreneur, dude. I mean, I don't think you should discredit yourself. Like the fact that you've gone out and you're supporting yourself, and I don't know what your personal family situation is like, but supporting your family and have employees, like that's an amazing thing, and you are for sure an entrepreneur, you know.
Yeah.
You've made something out of nothing. That's something that was in your brain as a thought is now being sold for a lot of money, and you're supporting people's livelihoods, you know. So you're absolutely an entrepreneur. You're absolutely a leader, and I think you're at the point where you're asking the right questions. You know, as you continue to grow, it's going to become less about like, hey, like how good is our technical audit, and it's going to be more about, hey, how happy is my person who's running my technical audits? What type of service are they providing to clients? And that's all about the relationship that you have with them. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that you're moving down the right path. I think that the E-Myth is a great book, but I think you should also start looking into other types of books. I mean, shit, Kobe's book, Mamba Mentality, is amazing. You know, there's all sorts of leadership books out there that you can, you know, listen into. I do all the time, and that was a big thing that I kind of made a shift for myself, was instead of listening to things about tactics and like podcasts about SEO, which are great, I'm not downputting them, but
Right,
I
yeah.
started to listen to podcasts about motivation and HR and like in psychology of people, you know, and those types of things, and how to be a leader, and how to build organizations, you know. So I think you're asking all the right questions, and you're kind of at that point in your career where you're becoming a leader, and you just got to keep building those skills, and all these other things too will fill themselves out as you grow. I mean, as you sign more clients, it's going to be easy to be like, okay, we need an SEO person. It's just about hiring, finding the right person, you know, and then
Yeah.
making sure that that person is supported. That
Yeah, and you know, everyone I have internally right now, you know, I've trained them from the ground up, and you know, I've sort of tried to, like, while I'm training them, I'm kind of looking to see like what I see that they have an aptitude for, what they actually enjoy doing, and I ask them too. I'm like, what do you like doing? What do you not like doing? Because I don't want to put you down a path. You know, I had you know, if you hate link building, like I'm not gonna, you know, but you like
yeah.
content, okay, let me go put you on content, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think part of it too, you know, is like with where we're at, like this is um, you know, we're still learning like what even type of clients that we like, you know, and you know, we've gone back and forth several times on like, do we like local or do we like um, you know, more national or B2B, and it really just it depends on the industry, like what industry we're working with. I found a few that I'm not a huge fan of, and some that I am, um, but do you think? Now I know like you never really like you primarily do B2B, like
Mm-hmm.
what Webrus does now, but you know, I've heard what you said about local. Now I like local, but I like specific types of local. And I try to be, well, I'm trying to be more picky about who I work with, you know, in that regard. But um, what do you think about like niching down and just saying like, I'm going to work with this one type of client? Like, is that a, you know,
I like it.
if we're not trying to like just, you know, scale and grow this huge business, you know, like, I
I think
guess
you
like,
can. I mean, look there's a lot of people out there that are making a lot more money than I am that are just doing local SEO for fucking contractors, you know, or for attorneys, you know. I think the hardest part about that is just making the decision to just do that. Because it's not something, you know, I say we only do B2B SEO, but when I look at, we only have a handful of clients. We have 6 clients right now. And one of them is e-commerce, one of them is local, you know, so we're not all in on B2B. So I'm even kind of like not taking my own medicine. That's a learning experience for me too, is that if you're going to, my dad used to say, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. If you're going to do something, go all in, you know, and I think it's really the key with that, because the hardest part is being like, well, shit, then I have to cut clients, lose revenue, but it makes itself up quickly. And I am a huge fan of, especially when you're smaller, although like, again, it depends. Like I just pushed it live in the Blueprint. There's a new webinar. There's 2 videos out of 4 that are up. You should go in and watch it if you get a chance. 25-minute videos where I talk about this. And I talk about how I arrived personally, giving like a level of effort matrix, looking at local versus B2B versus e-com versus like a publisher. And like the skills required, right? The cap on like how much someone would pay me. And I arrived at B2B because I said, look, at B2B is great because we don't need to do much technical SEO, which is the most expensive skill to have. I'm not the greatest I'm good at technical SEO, but I'm not great. And I'm also not going to be doing the services, right? So we're focused more on B2B because it's a lot more content and link building heavy. And honestly, that's something that we've got a good system to do. E-com would pay us more, and the life of the contracts would be longer because there's so much more work to be done, but it's going to be mostly technical SEO work, working with developers. It wasn't something we wanted to do. And then local too is like, well, local is great, but like local is not easier than anything else because there's more work that you have to do, right? And the retainer is usually lower. But if you say, you know, we only do local SEO and I only work with gyms or coffee shops or something like that, or finding what that space is, and you have to do the research to find who has the budget to pay us because their acquisition cost is high enough where they can pay 2, 3, 4, 5,000 a month for SEO, or maybe they have multiple locations, so you can just do franchises.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a number of ways to do it, and it's going B2B was just my decision. That's what I'm trying to get across the webinar. It's like, don't look at what I'm doing and say that's what we need to do, because I'm not saying this is right. I'm saying use this framework to determine what you like to do, how you're staffed, where you are locally. And dude, there's plenty of opportunity. It's so cliche, but like there is riches in the niches. And I know people that are making a lot of money that are only servicing one specific type of client. And then it also becomes easier to then stack pay-per-click, right? To stack Facebook because you're only working with that one client. And then you've just got a copy and paste framework that you're using for all your campaigns.
That's, you know, and that's what we were just talking about this over the past 2 days. We were really trying to nail that down, like what niche we wanted to do. And I'm a pretty damn competitive person. So like, you know, we look at these and we're like, oh, this is already pretty competitive. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with that though, because like I enjoy it. You know, that's why I like, you know, doing SEO. So but you know, it was part of it was, hey, well, it's going to be like, we're going to learn this material so much more better than, you know, we had God, there's been a handful of like some people that do some shit in real estate that I don't know the first thing about. And, you know, and I mean, we're talking like some very like niche real estate stuff too. And, you know, then I've got to go learn this stuff and figure out like how it works. And I would just rather just avoid that, you know, sometimes. And same thing with a tractor company, you know, it's like, I don't.
Yeah, I've been in a situation where we've had clients and I still didn't know what the fuck they were doing. I was like, this is just not good. It's not good. You know, it's not good too, because, you know, I was, after going through the stages,
marketer.
That, and it's just, you know, it's not just about doing SEO and getting rankings. There's also what's really important, as you know, is the level of service that you provide.
Yeah.
You know, that in the age of automation, that's what's really standing out, is that personalization. Like if you don't know what the client does, and you don't understand their product and their audience and their market, it's not like for the SEO campaign. Yeah, that's important, but also like when you have conversations with the client.
Yeah.
The best way to save a client is to show them that you care. You know, and if you're not interested in what they're doing, you don't know, you're not educated on it, then it's easy to be like, man, fuck you, you know. So yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you on that.
It's funny because we have one that's exactly how we feel. The funny thing is that's basically how he feels about his own business. Like he runs it for his wife, and he's like, I don't really know what the hell she's talking about. Like, all right, well, as long as we're on the same page there, you know. But no, it's yeah, it's definitely hard because it's not nearly as motivating to want to go work on it too and do research on it whenever you're like, well, one, when you're not interested in it, but two, even when you kind of start to get have a few ethical qualms about it, you know, and you're like, I'm not real sure that what you guys are trying to provide people is is worth people spending money on, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, um, well, I mean, that's the bulk of everything really. I mean, I met with David the other day and, I told him like I learned a lot really. I think, you guys launched this and you guys launched Blueprint, what, January of last year or
It'll be a year on Valentine's Day, actually.
February? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we picked it up in April, like right as we were incorporating. And, it's been, things have definitely, it definitely helped us, and, but I told David too that I wish I would have spent more time. Like I actually like went through and did like, the WQA and the keyword research and was sort of modifying things as I went, to add like a little bit more automation and stuff in there, but I didn't, it wasn't until like last month that I realized that the target pages file in the monthly report, the target URLs actually comes from the target pages file. Cause I never even did it. And I was like, this is why I should have gone through and completed this stuff, completely beforehand. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm a broken record, but I've said this a bunch of times. Like we're working on this learning plan that's almost done. That should help with that, because that's the biggest feedback that we get. And I'm glad I saw the interview. By the way, we appreciate you doing that.
Yeah,
honestly. But the biggest feedback that we get is just like, I don't know where to start. Like there's so much information in here. I don't know where to start, and I don't know how to take this and apply it to my agency that's already doing, really well. So that's like the next phase of what we're working on. Is really, I enjoy doing these phone calls, and to me, this is what helps people be successful, is having the additional, like I try to give as much as possible in the training, but it's only so much you can do until I have that one-on-one conversation, help you understand how it maps to your business and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. I can't imagine what it'd be like, we were fortunate enough to like, essentially as we were really starting to spin up the agency, we were just kind of taking the blueprint with it, I'd already been doing consulting on the side. So, I understood SEO. I knew what we were doing there. I can't imagine like running an agency, like, and then having, basically taking this and trying to map it to it. It would be
yeah. I mean, we're well aware of that. And, we do see this as just the beginning. Year one was great, but we see this as the beginning for what we want to do. And that's why I said 2 minutes. If you do have tips and feedback on the tools, please let us know, because we'll build it. If it's a template that's directly in the blueprint, and you're just like, hey, it would be awesome if it did this, Andres will build, like, that's good feedback for us and for everyone. We won't charge you for that. If you wanted to do something like, hey, I want a keyword research / on-page automation thing, then, we could charge you. And the fees are minimal too, trust me. I'm begging Dave to raise the prices. But, if you were going through the keywords thing, research thing, you're like, hey, like, this could actually be sped up and automated. All you got to do is drop a note to David, Andres, and myself, and we'll do that for you in a couple of days, so you don't have to waste your time on that shit anymore.
Yeah, and for the most part, it doesn't. I've been trying to like gauge my effort a little bit, like, cause like I said, I've been writing code for so long that sometimes when I want to change something in there, I can just go do it. Part of it too is also, as I've been using it more and more, I'm starting to understand essentially where David, and Andres have everything, from the code side of things, so it makes it easier to track down. But yeah, I mean, as time goes on, like I guess part of me was like, I don't want to bother them about something small, or whatever. But anywho, so. Well, I mean, I think that answers most of my questions. So it's basically just keep dealing with it, Skylar, until you can manage people. So.
No, I mean, look, if you even take a step back and just look at your growth over a year, things are going well. It's awesome. I'm happy for you. Just, it is a slow grind. Again, a lot of people get stuck in the thought process that an agency is going to be, their ticket out because of an ad that they saw, but it's a lot of work, man. And
oh yeah,
you're taking all the right steps.
I tell folks here, like, I'm fine with our growth, and I'm not, don't be wrong. Like, I don't want to necessarily run the agency forever. I'm wanting to build software, but, but it was I guess I'm lucky enough. Like when I got into this, like I started consulting out of web design and just kind of learned about SEO and got into it, and didn't necessarily like track down like any of the basically all the shit that I see now when I see like what people are doing with courses and stuff, like. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know if these people really understand how all this works, but so I'm definitely patient. But it was one of those things where it's like I wanted to make sure that what I was doing, that I was going to do it the right way and like a healthy and sustainable way, because like I don't know what I don't know, you know what I mean? So I've been trying to learn that over time. It's like even when I look at other agencies, I was just talking to Brian Nguyen, from the tax advisor, the other day, and,
Yeah.
and I said, because we're working with them now too.
Awesome.
And I said, I was like, I don't know, like, whether or not what we've done is good or not, relatively speaking. I was like, because I just don't know. I'm like, I don't come from a business background. I don't know, a whole lot about that. I've been self-learning it, but my background is in computer science, and so. But so he gave me some word of encouragement there. But there's always room for improvement, right? And so the even when I look at like how you guys operate, like I'm always pouring through like your pricing files too, and like just trying to look at like, okay, like not necessarily in terms of how you're pricing things, but how you're allocating like resources and manpower and stuff. But just trying to learn like essentially how all that gets done. But and then knowing too, when it comes to looking at advice from other agencies, like I'm not going to say any names, but some stuff that we've talked about, like knowing like what to listen to and what not to, you know what I mean? So I guess that's just.
But like when I look at a lot of people that I know personally that are like leaders in the SEO industry that people are taking advice from, they're good to get SEO advice from, but like those people aren't like, if your business is doing like $500,000 to $1 million a year in revenue, you're not the best business expert to listen to, because they haven't figured out how to take a skill, which SEO is, and turn it into a business, right?
Right.
So you do have to be careful because a lot of people that are looked at as industry leaders, which I'm not saying anything bad about them, they're just not making that much money, and like, it's great that SEO that well, but it's like at the end of the day, like we're trying to run a business here, and if you're not, so you do have to be very, very, very careful. And again, it's not just that too, it's also the people that you look and you see who appear to be doing well are actually underwater in companies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, I mean, it's like, it's even, it's like take Neil Patel, for example, right? Like when it comes to SEO, I'm just like, I don't really pay attention, right? But I'm like, I mean, I got to give the guy this, at least he built a brand, like he definitely.
And I'm glad that you said that, because it's funny. Most SEOs feel the opposite way. They're like, oh, he steals content, which I agree with is a shitty thing to do, but it's like, this dude is running circles around all of us. Like, instead of hating on the dude, like, why don't you try to figure out what he's doing? Like, the SEO industry is very crazy. And that's why I always tell people too, it's like, there's, you should also kind of have tunnel vision and just not listen to what other people are saying and just do what you do. Like, you're in rural Kentucky, it's way different than looking at somebody who's in New York City. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to do what you feel is best. And that's where, like, being a leader, working on yourself comes into play, because at the end of the day, it's going to be up to you to make the decisions. Right. And it's critical to make the right ones, but you already are, man. You're already, of all the people that I see come through the blueprint, I mean, your answers are spot on. Like, you're always on point. Your growth too. I didn't know that you were just getting started in April. I just assumed that you were, legacy agency owner. So, I mean, just keep doing your thing, man. And these problems they never go away, but these problems, you will figure them out. It's just part of the business.
Cool. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I guess the only other question I got to ask is, I know you said you guys are about how many weeks out before the your testing modules go live? Because that would be definitely. I know everyone's like excited for this, because we can actually see like who we can, like, especially like subcontract to do like to do on page or do WQA, right? To like pull in.
It's probably going to be, I would probably say realistically summertime. Just with, like, I'm still wrapping the sale. I'm working on the proposal sub-module of the sales module, because people have been asking for it. It's important, really important. And then after I get through the sales module, I'll be done with like the content for a while. And that's when my whole focus has been on the learning plan. But at the same time, David and myself are working really hard on what I bought into with David's companies, with, the stuff we're doing with BigQuery, which, if I'm being honest, has way much more of an upside than anything else that I'm working on. So that has also started to like pick my attention. But I have a goal for like summertime really, to have like the final V1 of Blueprint wrapped up, that being the learning plan. And then after that, again, focusing on kind of like what you just said, is now we'll keep getting people in the Blueprint, but how can we take the people that are in there already, that have already paid, and make this the best possible experience? And a lot of that is helping them out with with stuff. Ideally too is getting some of our tools already migrated to BigQuery and like helping automate a lot of that stuff. So a lot of stuff coming, and yeah. So I don't want to commit to saying like next month because that's what
Oh
I
yeah,
said
yeah,
before.
yeah.
Probably summertime.
I'll have to check out some of this BigQuery stuff because I mean, are you guys primarily like recommending that for like the larger data sets, or is there more functionality and
Yeah,
flexibility?
we've done a really poor job with it so far, just because. So what David built, which is really impressive, is basically a web app that helps you connect data sources to BigQuery, right? So SEMrush, Google Analytics, what have you, right? So right now we're just connecting them directly to Sheets. And what happens is, even for small data sets, like it's really slow, it cranks out, whatever. And then you're also stuck in Sheets. But if you push it to BigQuery, it does all that processing there. And then you can basically build a report off the back of that. So it might not even ever even need to touch Sheets. You can push it right to Data Studio if you wanted, or into Sheets,
Right.
what have you. It is obviously much better for big data, like massive data sets, which is going to be our long-term focus, which is enterprise, of course. But basically what we're working on doing is taking everything that we have within the blueprint and turning them into a BigQuery recipe. So we're calling it recipes. The website quality audit is the main one. So like what's really awesome about the website quality audit is that, so right now you could hire us. We already have probably like 15 customers that are paying us, and we're kind of running it by hand. So we have David and Andres taking their data, pushing it to BigQuery. What we're working on finishing is something that's going to be basically like literally like Zapier, like kind of like put in your API key and like it would like take care of everything. You won't see anything except for the output of the report. So we're working on making it self-service, which probably won't be ready for at least another 6 months. But the website quality audit is the best example, because what we're able to do is, number one, is customize it. So like based on your input, we can add or subtract anything to it. And then also what we do is we set it to run. So it refreshes daily, but we can set it to run weekly, monthly, quarterly, however often you want that data. So we're basically saying, hey, this is an audit, but then you're going to be getting a monthly report on the status of that. So like, for example, if month one you had 20 broken URLs, the next month it will show you the progress on what you've done with that, right? And it's really cheap too. I mean, we're charging like $30 per month per site. So it's perfect for agencies with clients, because you sign up and it's just an expense item per client.
Right.
And then you're getting, go ahead.
Is it capable of assigning URL actions, or are we still signing these manually?
Yeah, that's the amazing part about it, man. So we built in some logic to it that you still have to review them.
That's what we've done. Yeah.
Yeah. So we built in a bunch of logic that will, I think David's just really smart. It's not only just the URL actions, it's also the website categorization. So like it'll tag the pages, which is amazing in itself. It still needs manual review. That's why right now it's basically software as a service. Like you're going to have to pay us for a level of consulting on top of that, unless you're a Blueprint member and you know how to analyze it, right? That's why the Blueprint's so important too, because it becomes a feeding ground for our training, for our tools. But basically, yeah, I mean, it will assign 4 different URL actions based on the different buckets. So it's like links, architecture, on page, and I think technical or keyword. And we're getting so much data from deep crawl, it's really awesome. So it will assign 1 or 4 URL actions per URL that you then need to review. And then what's also awesome is that we built a Data Studio report off of that. So what it does, it will display, I mean, just like a deep crawl or like a Sitebulb does, it displays all the issues, then it displays the progress. But then it's also really awesome because we're basically turning it into a monthly report where it'll have the results. So basically, like if you're an SEO agency, we're trying to get it to the point where like, this is all you need on a monthly basis. Where like, you might even be able to run your SEO campaigns off of this, right? Because it will give you like pages that need updating, pages that like keywords to go after for content, like all this different stuff, like built-in SEO recommendations that you can run and like take a client on for $500 and just have them pay you to run that report, which is white labeled as your own. Like we're not taking credit for that. Like we're not like SEMrush that's like, here's our report. It's white labeled to you in Data Studio. So you take that, charge whatever you want for it. You're paying us $30 for it. And then you can charge for consulting off the back of that, which is where we're trying to go as an agency. So we're trying to build this model internally first, where we're saying, we're not doing anything that we're not going to be running through BigQuery. Nothing. Basically, you're going to be paying us to do that. We're not going to tell you that. We're just going to basically be like, this is a managed SEO service, but we're getting all of the legwork done through BigQuery and automation. And then you're going to be paying us off the back of that for like, hey, these are 10 pages that we feel like you can really improve. Here's how to do that. So really pushing that as like a software as a service. And then again, like that's why the blueprint is so important to us, because we want to get you guys activated doing the same thing and being like, oh shit, I can just have myself and run this and pay them nothing, and make really good margins off it, and like true SEO consulting, or build it however you want, So that's
Right.
like our realistic, like 6 to 3 year goal to get to that point. Which also then shows you the importance of why the blueprint is so important, because we're only serving this to agencies, and if we can get you guys activated in the stuff that we're doing and like really loving and buying into the tools and giving us feedback, which is again
Right.
why I'm like encouraging you to give me feedback, because we're going
Yeah.
to take that and
Yeah.
obviously you're going to benefit from, but we will too.
I told David, I was like, I'll have to share some of the modifications. I sent you like a while back about where I automated the deletion of the tabs. It's just like little stuff like that. But and then I've been working on doing the automatic URL actions for, especially for like the content audits and cannibalization and stuff like that. Basically, I was running 2 pre-reports I would feed into the WQA prior to, and then with that data, it could categorize those for me. And same thing with the categories for the pages. But yeah, like I said, you still have to review them manually, because sometimes if they're depending on how their photo architecture is set up, like sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's not. So but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's it's cool. Now what you're talking about there is that you guys are just working on that internally right now, or have you run that for anybody? Like,
we've been running that for a lot of people. So basically, we're running it under Coding is for Losers right now.
yeah,
Coding is for Losers is
yeah.
consultancy similar. So basically,
I go to David's website, so
yeah, good. We just rebuilt it. It still needs work, but we're like working on building that back up. I just think personally, I think there's way more money in that than the agency stuff. Me personally, like his skill set that nobody else, like the challenge is convincing people to use that. So like that's where the marketing and communication comes into play, in the sales. And like the bigger challenge is going to be BigQuery that nobody even knows about. So we have to educate people on what BigQuery is, the value, the benefits of it, and then introduce our solution off the back of that. And it's cool because a lot of like the leading SEOs in the space are already starting to talk about BigQuery, but you need like SQL and Python, like all this shit to figure out how to work. So, I've been like monitoring keywords on Twitter. I actually just tweeted out Will Reynolds today from Seer. He was tweeting about something, and we tweeted back and forth about BigQuery. I'm just trying to like get this on people's maps, because this is a product that nobody else is doing. So it should stick with people, right away. And when they're ready, then, we're building kind of like a sales process to capture that, which David's doing a really good job with. So we've got a handful of people that are already using his product. But again, like it's still pretty labor intensive, because David has to spend his time with Andres to get them set up. Whereas ideally, once we get this app done, it'll all be self-service,
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing where it goes. And, I told him anything that I modify or add, I'll, usually just share it with him. That way I'm like, look, if this saves you guys any effort, or, just like what I do with the community too. I'm like, if you guys want to try this, it doesn't work for everybody, but if it makes sense for you, feel free to add it, so. But,
yeah, we appreciate that. I mean, we appreciate all you've done for the community too, honestly.
Yeah.
It means a lot to us.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. We'll talk soon, man.
I'll see you in May, I guess.
Yeah, man. Let me know when you're here for sure.
We'll do.
All right, brother.
See you.